Hello everybody, back with another modern deck tech. This one's pretty fun. It's not really a tier 1 deck by any stretch of the imagination, but it plays a bunch of really fun cards that I was excited to play.
And not every deck needs to be a tier 1.
It's true. So this is a 5-color Cascade deck. Probably not the one that you might be familiar with that has like crashing footfalls on turn 2 or whatever it tries to do. This one's with Bloodbraid Elf, Shardless Agent, and a bunch of fun things that give you some bit of value when you cascade into them, such as drawing you a card, getting a card back, killing something and getting 2 guys, that sort of thing. So starting here at the 1s, we got 2 copies of Thraben Inspector, so he gives you a clue when he enters the battlefield. So sort of a bit of delayed card advantage.
Yeah, slower, but I mean,
does the job.
Cards are cards.
Yeah. We have a 1 copy of Ragavan, Nimble, Pilferer. This was 3 initially, and then in one of my test games I cascaded into it after I played it, and I never want that to happen, so back down to 1
Back
with
to
you.
one he goes.
And then we have a 0-drop, Inevitable Betrayal. So this lets you search your opponent's library for any creature card and put that onto the battlefield. And this has Suspend 3 for 3 mana. But normally you're going to want to be cascading either a Bloodbraid Elf, a Shardless Agent, or a Bit Blast into this. These are just here to be fun, frankly. There are probably better cards that you could put in this slot, but out of nowhere, taking your opponent's best thing off of a Cascade is pretty sick. So it's in there for that reason. And then moving on over to 2-drops, we have 2 copies of Wall of Omens, draws a card when it enters, of course. 4 copies of Coiling Oracle, so this can either get you an extra land drop or just draw you a card, depending on what's on the top of your library. Pretty good.
Yeah, either, I mean, at least a card, but sometimes on the field is pretty good.
Yeah, sometimes it's basically an explorer, which is fun. We have 4 Orcish Bowmasters. This card is tearing up Modern right now, but he's in here because he's fun for me, and I've never played with him before. But of course, he flashes in. It's a 1/1 for 2, and when he enters, you can deal 1 damage to anything, player, creature, planeswalker, and you get a Orc army with a 1/1 counter on it, basically. And then if you play subsequent ones of these, you get to grow your army. So, pretty fun. And it fits the theme because it gives you, like, 3 effects in 1 card. So,
yes.
It's fun to cascade into. Then other 2s, we have some spells up here. We have 4 copies of Lightning Helix, which is 3 damage, gain 3 life. You're not getting a ton of value out of this compared to all these other cards, but it does do 2 things. Gains you some life and takes some of your opponent's life. And we're also a little light on removal, so it's good for that. And then we have 4 Growth Spirals, so this is very similar to Coiling Oracle, but you can put any land from your hand onto the battlefield, not just the one that's revealed. So it's basically an Explore instant speed.
Yep, just, instant, and the blue doesn't really matter when you're already 5-color deck, so...
Yeah, and it's pretty looking.
Yes, and it's prettier than Explorers.
Yes. So, moving on to 3s, we've got 1 copy of Eternal Witness, just get anything back from your graveyard. It's good with every card, pretty much. Shardless Agent, it's a 3-mana Cascader. It's a 2/2, so it can hit any of these guys. Then we have... Is that it for 3s? That is it for 3s, so let's move over to 4s. We have 2 copies of The One Ring, which I guess means that it's not The One Ring, because there's 2 copies. And it can't possibly be.
Yeah.
Another card that's doing a lot of things in Modern, but it's some nice card advantage. It gives you multiple effects. And who knows, you could even potentially hit your 1-bit blast into it, which is pretty fun.
It gives you like a time walk-ish effect, too, which is neat.
Yeah, like your opponents can still cast things, but you're basically immune to anything they have to offer for 1 turn. And then, of course, Bloodbraid Elf, the entire reason why I wanted to play this deck. I got the sweet Secret Lair art version of it. And we already had these Shardless Agents, so I figured, hey, you gotta... Right? You gotta. But Bloodbraid Elf, classic, Cascade, Haste, 3/2 for 4. Can hit anything here. Moving on to 5s, we have 1 copy of Bituminous Blast. No text on this, but what it does is 4 damage to a player or planeswalker, and it cascades, and it's an instant. So you can live the dream and on your opponent's turn kill their best thing into Bloodbraid, into Shardless, and do a 2-drop. Into Bowmasters kill their second best thing.
Yes.
So that's
the
always
ultimate
fun.
dream that will always happen.
Yeah, 100% of the time. You certainly won't be bit blasting into like a Thraben Inspector most of the time.
Or like, you know, a bit blast into the One Ring in response to lethal. Like, there's so many options that could happen. The bottom end ones are more likely to happen.
Definitely.
Thraben Inspector.
And then we have Scion of Draco at 12 mana, but it's not really 12 mana, it's more like 2, because most of these lands have land types on them.
The nice Triomes section here helps solidify that.
Yeah, we will get to this. A lot of lands that make him a lot cheaper. But of course, he is a 4/4 flying for 12, costs 2 less for each basic land type, so you can cost as low as 2. And he's 4/4 flyer, and then he gives creatures other abilities based on the colors that they are. So the important ones are usually red and green. Green gives you trample, red gives you first strike. Those are pretty good. There's a bit of black in this deck for Bowmasters, so you can get some lifelink out of that. What's kind of fun about this too is it is the Bowmasters dealing the damage, so if you already have this in play, then your 1 damage ping is a lifelink ping.
It's lifelink.
You get one life back.
He's also just, you know, like a nice 2-drop that you don't cascade into, even though he would be excellent to cascade into, but, you know, you still like to have those cards to help thin out what you actually get.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, so then lands, there's not really a lot to say here. We have almost all of the Triomes, we're only missing one of them, but we got 2 of each, and then 1 of this one. I can't see the names from here. I haven't memorized these card arts yet, so I'm not going to bother.
The black-green one is the one that gets only 1 copy, but, I mean, they're not really in the Cascade colors, so it makes sense.
Yep. And this deck doesn't have a lot of 1-drops, obviously, not like decks that I usually play, so having a Triome on turn 1 isn't really preventing you from doing too much. Or fetch land into Triome, as the case usually is. And then we have a few 1-ofs for dual lands. We have Watery Grave, Steam Vent, Sacred Foundry, Stomping Ground. And we have 2 copies of Breeding Pool, because there are a lot of blue-green spells here.
Blue-green spells on turn 2.
And we have a 1-of Waterlogged Grove, so also similar to Breeding Pool for similar reasons, but this one can draw you a card if you have to. And it's worth noting that Triomes also have cycling. This deck does run a lot of lands because it has high casting cost spells. So it does run a lot of lands. Sometimes you just trade one in for a card. It's better than having your 8th land or whatever. And we got a whole bunch of fetch lands and 1 forest. And that is 5-color Cascade.